Once we move on to the running back position, I can't imagine that there are too many running backs out there that are holding down, at least on the depth chart, a number one spot, who were the leading rusher for their team on the national championship game, who more fans are wanting to no longer be the starting running back at a particular team than Master Teague, Steve.
Yeah, there's a lot of Master Teague fatigue out there, I think, among the Ohio State fan base. And I think a lot of it has to do with his upright running style, his inability when he hits a hole to juke somebody, to make that lateral Barry Sanders type move, which Barry Sanders is one of the few people who could do that. Basically switch running lanes on a whim and get you another 10 or 15 or 20 yards. Teague's just never shown that ability to do that. And particularly when you substitute him with somebody like Trey Sermon, who got healthy at midseason and then had perhaps the greatest game an Ohio State running back has ever had, at least in terms of yardage, against Northwestern in the Big Ten championship game, over 300 yards. You saw that there is another gear, there is another level of running back out there. In my analysis, I had Teague and Mayan Williams bracketed, which is hilarious because Mayan Williams had like 10 carries last year for 70 yards, but they were the greatest 10 carries for 60 or 70 yards in the history of Ohio State football, because the bowling ball was running over people at critical moments in games, giving Sermon and Teague a blow and showing what he could do. And Teague, for whatever reason, wasn't available the last half of spring football. He didn't play in the spring game and wasn't out there. And I have no idea what's going on with him, or, I presume he'll be okay and he'll be back. But Dave Biddle, guy from our site, came up with a note that we published in our boarding house that in the coach's mind, it's Mayan Williams right now at number one, and Master Teague and everybody else trying to play catch up. So I don't know about that. That's not my information. I'm just sharing what, and for my analysis, as I said, I bracketed those two. Then I like Marcus Crowley. He's gotten in there and done some positive things. Trevion Henderson, young guy, freshman, sky's the limit. By the end of the season, he could be number one all by himself. That's how good he is. Prior, I looked for them to ease him into the role. Steel Chambers, just a guy at this point. He's, had some health issues and different things. He's trying to get back full go, and has just, kind of struggled to get his career going, I guess, to the running back position. Caught in the numbers game right now, and I've even had a question here in the chat about him possibly moving to linebacker. There's been no discussion of that. I think it even came up with Tony Alford or Al Washington in one of the interview sessions. And that message board, the old Mike DeAndrea out to defensive end from 2004, 2003 message board trope kept getting put up all the time. The same applies to Steel Chambers going to linebacker and somebody else playing running back besides Master Teague. It's the wishes of the fan base, message board fodder, great for discussion, but hasn't crossed the mind of anybody at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, when Steel Chambers came out of high school, as with most high schoolers, he played both ways. Some schools were looking at him as a linebacker, so I think that's always where the genesis of this linebacker Steel Chambers conversation comes from. I agree. I think that Master Teague probably will be the guy game one, but will he be the guy game six? I don't know. I mean, if he comes back and has a breakout type of season, which of course people will be like, well, where was that the last couple of years? But different guys progress at their own pace, and you just don't know. I mean, you don't know where it's going to be there. I am in agreement that that the stock seems to be very high on Mayan Williams at this point. He's a very different type of back. I mean, he was kind of a quote-unquote last-second throw-in when Bijan Robinson and Jalen Knighton didn't work out for Ohio State, and they had to reshuffle their deck a little bit. Marcus Crowley, I think the biggest thing for him is he's going to have to just be able to get over the mental aspect of the injury that he's been dealing with. You know, a lot of guys come back and are physically able to perform, but you have to be able to get past the injury. If you hurt yourself, you know, planting your foot and cutting, are you going to be able to do that, remembering what you had to go through and all of the rigmarole around that injury? I think Trevion Henderson certainly has star potential. I mean, I think he's a guy, it would not surprise me to see a game this year where he has 20 carries, where he ends up being the feature back because he has the hot hand, and you've got to ride the hot hand. I think Evan Pryor is somebody who is a dangerous pass catcher. You know, it wouldn't surprise me to see them try to hold him to the 4 games for the red shirt just in case. I mean, now that red shirts are a thing again and we're out of this, you know, COVID waiver or whatnot, he may play his way out of it. He may surprise us. But I think when you look at pictures of Trevion and Evan together, you can see that Trevion is more physically developed in his growth than Evan Pryor is. And that's not to say a couple of months in off-season training under Mickey Marotti won't get Evan there, but I just think that there's a little bit more progression along the ways when you're looking at Henderson.
And the thing to keep in mind about Master Teague, I know everybody knows why they don't like him as much as others. We see it, but he was coming off of the Achilles injury last year, and it was a difficult year of rehab for everybody. And he was at least one of the fortunate ones who got to rehab in Columbus. Other guys had to rehab from home, like Marcus Crowley, which hindered him. But let's see what he does this year. I don't know that. I don't think he becomes J.K. Dobbins 1 year, you know, an extra year removed from having his Achilles repaired. But he should be better. But is that still the level where the Ohio State starting running back should be? If he's healthy, I think he starts. I don't think he'll hold on to the job. I know the staff loves Mayan Williams, and Trevion Henderson is going to play. And Marcus Crowley, as a healthy guy, I still, you know, a year ago wasn't convinced that he wasn't the best. I thought he could have been the best running back on the roster. He just wasn't healthy yet. And so there's enough competition there to where I think Master Teague has to elevate his game. And as I've said on this show before, you've got an entire room of running backs minus the freshmen who saw Master Teague lose his job last year. So they know it can be done. And you don't necessarily have to be as outstanding as 331 yards in the Big Ten championship game. But if you can be consistent 7 yards a carry and seeing some of these holes that maybe Teague has missed, I think I don't think it's a stretch to say that Teague could lose his job again this year. And of course, then people are saying, well, why even give it to him? But, you know, that's kind of what Ohio State does until somebody proves themselves. You can't just assume somebody's going to prove themselves. You got to see it in practice and in the games as well.
I think that there's 2 parts of this. Catching the ball out of the backfield, Teague's never really displayed an ability to do that, which would be helpful. And they did throw the ball to Henderson in the spring game, and he was impressive. So I think that kind of works to his advantage in terms of that. The other thing is pass protection when they keep the running back in to help chip, you know, either a blitzer or a defensive end who comes free or whatever. Teague seems like that's something he's mastered, for lack of a better term. And the other guys, you know, that's something they've got to add to their toolbox and be able to do if they're going to play on passing downs in particular. So, you know, those 2 things I think really do resonate with Tony Alford and Ryan Day when it comes time to decide who's playing running back.